What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode on the channel. As always, I'm Jay, and today I got my movie bro Ricardo, and today we're talking about the 30th anniversary of GoldenEye 007, Pierce Brosnan's first outing as James Bond. And you know, me and you, Ricardo, this is kind of like this was our James Bond right here, because growing up, Pierce Brosnan was the first one that we got exposed to and everything, you know.
Yep.
So it's one of those things where it's kind of cool to go back and revisit. Plus, I'm a big Bond fan, and anybody that's watched my channel, I tried to start doing reviews. I was working my way through it, and then I kind of shit the bed with it, unfortunately, between a move and not a lot of area to put a green screen and all my other stuff. Like I just stopped doing the reviews. So apologies, all you who are coming to my channel, seeing some of them things. Maybe one day I'll get back to them, but probably not right now. So this is gonna be scratching that itch a little bit. Um, so yeah, Golden Eye was like it was done in 1995. I forget what the hiatus number was, but like the one before that was License to Kill, which was Timothy Dalton's last James Bond, and that was the first PG-13 Bond. Like everyone's talking about, oh my God, Daniel Craig's the first hardcore Bond. I'm like, have you guys seen License to Kill? Do y'all not know that my man Timothy Dalton like was killing folks left and right? And that one was kind of a turn because a lot of people were like, oh, that's too dark. You can't do that with James Bond. That doesn't work. But cut to Pierce Brosnan being in Goldeneye. He was supposed to be Bond before, but he was on a TV show that got canceled and then renewed called Remington Steele, which
Yep.
was crazy. And also, it was the first time that Martin Campbell came in and directed a James Bond movie, which everyone knows as well too. Or if you don't, Martin Campbell also directed another kind of reboot, reignition in Casino Royale with Daniel Craig, and arguably those are the two best James Bond movies of the modern era. They had a lot to do by starting up the series again after kind of being dead in the water. So, I mean, my man's two for two, although he did make Green Lantern, which was not a good move. So, you
No.
know, but hey, Martin, just stick to the Bond movies, just stick to some action adventure movies. I don't know. And of course, we have to mention the fact that GoldenEye, the N64 game, the
Classic.
GOAT, you know.
Classic.
I
Yep.
I didn't have an N64 growing up, so I mean maybe you could speak more on that personally, Ricardo.
I mean,
So
going back into the 90s, obviously, Super Nintendo, Sega, having those two systems, console wars coming along, and then out comes, N64, obviously Super Mario N64, like that was one of the biggest games to come out.
yep,
And once GoldenEye came out, obviously, like my dad's a big James Bond fan.
yep.
I remember even seeing the movie in theaters as a kid, really young with him. And then once the game came out, obviously my father was like, "Yeah, we're gonna get this game."
It's over.
Because,
You
yeah,
gotta get it.
my top dad, anything 007, he's gonna go and get it. So like 007 came along, and then
Yep,
there's a story mode within the game, but then
yep,
eventually, like what made the game so popular is not just because of the story mode and the
no,
story, it
yep,
became the multiplayer. It became have
yep,
your friends over on a Saturday, Saturday night, Saturday afternoon, or whatever, after school, you go and play 007
yep.
and play GoldenEye, and then like it was like one of the best, multiplayer games ever. And I'm so sad that the game came out back in the 90s because I mean, if this game came out, in 20, let's say 2013 or 2010 or whatever,
Yep.
you know, playing online with people, like this game would be awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Like it's like the let's say the modern warfare, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, like
Mhm.
the beginning of it of when it comes to multiplayer games, in my
True, true.
yeah.
Yeah, no, and it was a first person thing too. And funny enough, they actually did reboot the game technically with Daniel Craig doing the voice and stuff. If you might remember back, I actually bought the Wii version, which was
Mm.
pretty cool for the time. People were like, oh no, it's shit or whatever. But I had a lot of fun with it. And obviously I can't speak to the online playability of it if there was one, but the story and the way that they kind of revamped it and incorporated Daniel Craig's Bond in it was kind of cool to see them do that for the most part. Let's just jump right into this movie and some of the cool parts about it. I mean, 30 years, man. I mean,
That's crazy. This flies
it's
by.
this has been the year of like 30-year, 25, whatever year movie anniversaries. And it is insane, man, how many movies are celebrating like 30, 40, whatever it is. I mean, what was it? And it's just it just keeps on going, and I just like, and the thing is too is it's like it's so crazy to think like we watched these things when we were young, and we've been growing up with this stuff, and it's kind of got a life of its own and kind of got that same reverence and appreciation. Or in some cases, these things that we liked that slipped through the cracks become cult classics, which is another crazy thing. I
Mhm.
mean, say what you will, but in 2 years, I plan on doing another video like this for Spawn, which is a guilty pleasure movie for me and my gateway into comic books. I mean, Blade did it better, but let's be real, Spawn was the first African American superhero on screen that really killed it. I mean, people were like, "Oh, what about Meteor Man and stuff?" I'm like, "Yeah, but let's pump the brakes here. We're talking about serious adaptations. Don't get too caught up in that. Don't think too much because then you can get into Blank Man and all these other movies and stuff like that
Yeah.
that we're just not taken seriously. But no, getting into 007. I mean, again, this was reigniting the series. Martin Campbell had a lot on his shoulders to really bring the series back. So one of the biggest things about Bond movies is their iconic openings, and this opening was totally iconic because it was a little steeped in mystery. Like you're waiting to see Bond's face for what, like about maybe at least 8 to 10 minutes before he does this like dazzling like bungee jump, goes in, infiltrates, and then he's like hanging upside down, and he's like basically knocking out a guard after saying, "Sorry, I forgot to knock." Like typical Bond humor, getting that espionage, and it's a much faster pace right off the bat too with this film. In about like 15 minutes or so, he's already infiltrated. He's already met up with 006, which every single Bond movie beforehand, maybe I'm misremembering, but we always hear about other agents in passing or an agent that got killed or whatever, but we've never actually seen another agent work with James in any capacity, at least
Right.
from what I can recall. If I am wrong, please correct me down in the comments, but I mean, he's working with 006, Alec Trevelyan. They're infiltrating at the time a Cold War USSR like Russian kind of site or whatever. They're going in to destroy it and everything. And what happens is, in the midst of all that, James is setting up detonators with 006, and then all of a sudden 006 gets like caught basically trying to defend them. And I thought that was really a cool moment because at that point in time he says to him, he's like, "Alec, close the door, there's a draft." And then it's like a brief 5 seconds where there's no music playing, and then you realize like, oh shit, he got caught. Like at first you're watching it, maybe you think, oh, he got killed or whatever. No, he's got straight up caught. He's on his knees, he's about to get shot.
Mm.
And the other big bad that's in the movie, General Orumov, at the time he was not a general, but he's like telling Bond like surrender or your friend is going to get killed. Dot dot dot. And then James kind of like comes out, but then all of a sudden 006 still gets murked, or so
Yeah.
we think.
Yeah.
Spoilers. This
So
movie's 30 years old, so
yeah,
if you get some
spoilers go
spoilers
out the
coming.
window. Yeah, there shouldn't be a spoiler warning for this.
Exactly. But the just like the tension of like him grabbing the cart, eking his way over to the conveyor belt and stuff in a room full of like 50 people with guns trained on him. And it's funny, one of these dudes gets a little trigger happy, fire pops off a few, and then Ormov ends up turning and killing him like
Mm.
for breaking the orders. But he makes his escape. Again, the Bond theme going on, kind of great Bond moment. He gets on a runway. He's going to catch a plane that he starts going, uh, driving down the runway. Then he
Yep.
gets thrown out the plane fighting this other guy, and then he's going to get on a motorcycle and drive off the runway, and somehow through shit
Yeah.
luck
Yeah.
pulls it right back up at the last minute as the
Mm.
as the whole thing's exploding. And I'm like, okay, if you're going to reignite a series, this is a way to do it right here. Like it really, like the exhilaration and stuff. Obviously you got to suspend your disbelief, it's a Bond movie, but I mean, damn.
Yeah.
And then that turns into another throwback, Tina Turner's Goldeneye, right? And we were kind of talking about this a little bit off camera, but it's definitely a songstress coming in and doing like this kind of like dun 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 dun, like really like bold theme.
Yeah. So from my research of like, because I'm obviously a big James Bond fan, and
Yep.
going back and just seeing the songs that they could have used but didn't use, and especially big in the '90s, Ace of Base had a
Yeah.
song for
Yep.
GoldenEye, which did end up getting rejected.
Yep.
And that actually they actually used it and changed it from GoldenEye to the Juvenile. So and
Mm,
I think that was like a hit song for them too as well. So I mean, it kind of
yep.
worked out for them. It kind of worked out for both parties. They got what they wanted.
Yeah.
Um, but I think I have no problem with Tina Turner's song. I think it definitely like the way it hits, it definitely feels like a throwback to the old Bond songs. It
Yep.
feels like it's James Bond, and even too, I think it just fits like the character. Where like
Oh yeah. Of
I think Pierce Brosnan was like obviously he was a perfect choice. Some people might say they like Daniel Craig or they like
course.
they like was it Roger Moore?
Hmm.
They like Roger Moore's Bond better. For me, obviously growing up in the 90s, obviously,
Yep.
Pierce Brosnan was, that was my James Bond. Even though I like Daniel Craig's movies, but James
Yep.
Bond, like when you think of James Bond, you see Pierce Brosnan. Like, he looked the part. And I
Yeah.
think he was, in my opinion, I think he was the closest to Sean Connery that we ever got, in my
Mm.
opinion.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think he fit. Obviously, he wasn't as like let's say physical in a sense of how Daniel Craig's Bond was, but I
Yep.
think when it came to the suave, you know, mysterious, agent can basically kind of swoon women, but also too like he can hold up his own in a fight. I
Of
felt
course.
like he fit the bill when it came to being James Bond, and I think from that perspective of all the other bonds that we have, I felt like Pierce Brosnan's bond to come into his own franchise in his new film. I think GoldenEye was probably obviously probably one of his best.
Pierce Brosnan was an amalgamation of the best of the previous Bond actors. He could be mysterious and kind of like intense like Sean Connery, but he could also have that brevity of Roger Moore. I mean, Roger Moore was all about tongue in cheek, man. He had the jokes, he had the one liners,
Mm.
and then like I said, one of my favorite Bonds, if not my favorite Bond, was Timothy Dalton, and Timothy Dalton traditionally looked like kind of how I want to say he looked like how Bond
Yeah.
is described in the books to a certain degree. And again, you take all those guys and kind of wrap them into one man. Pierce Brosnan is the guy. I mean, he's a traditional Bond. He was like, the Bond for the 90s and early 2000s. He was a Bond for a generation, as they all were. And yeah, I mean, I think he just definitely has that nostalgia factor for us too, that leg up on Daniel Craig. Nothing to take away from Daniel Craig, but I mean, Pierce was just, the Uber Bond. And, this was a great way to kind of bring it in. And before I forget, I forget to mention, but Sean Bean being in this as 006, the man, the myth, the legend, and
Yeah.
the man that has the best death scenes in cinematic history. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, I think if anything, I wish we got to see more of him, of like
yeah,
006, and give him more of a bigger part
yep,
to then get the heel turn that he was actually the one kind of setting up James and doing all these things. Like he was actually the big bad behind the scenes
yep,
in the first place. I wish we got a little bit more from them like to begin with, rather than them just joining on a mission, but like
yep,
just like a little bit more interaction, let's say being around in England or different missions
yep,
or whatever. I feel like the movie could have been a little bit longer in that sense, but
sure,
what we got, I mean, it's a 90s movie. It came out in 95. You get
yeah,
the classic, villain trope type of thing. And, they kind of just wanted to get
sure.
things going, I guess. But that's just, my little pet peeve. Obviously Sean Bean is like,
Oh yeah,
perfect casting to be, the right side of Pierce Brosnan. And especially too,
absolutely.
even too, just him being a double O agent too as well. Like it fit the
Yeah.
bill
Do
in some sense.
do we know if he tried to be like go for an audition as Bond at all? Because I mean, I could easily have seen him as like trying to be in an audition. I don't know that he would be in the running necessarily, but
He could
he's
have. He could
definitely
have been. I mean, I don't know. I didn't check. I'm actually on IMDb right now, so I want to see if there's any
Yeah,
trivia
check
about it.
that
But
out for sure because that would be interesting if he did try to audition, almost like Killian Murphy trying to audition for Bruce Wayne
ooh,
and Batman, but then pivoting and being Scarecrow almost.
check
Um,
check this out though. Ralph Fiennes actually auditioned to be James Bond for this movie.
Oh, no shit. Well, and as the audience knows, he would later become M in the Daniel Craig Bond movies.
That's
Speaking
all.
of which, this was also the first film for M being played by Dame Judi Dench. So that they've definitely played on that. And this one was kind of like this one was almost like at the beginning it's the Cold War, and as the movie really gets going after the credits, you see the kind of the fall of Stalin and the the Cold War kind of being ended almost symbolically through the title sequences plus all the things that they allude to. I mean, when they're having that conversation and she's having like the drink with him, I think it was brandy or whatever it is, and she's saying, I think you're a sexist, misogynist dinosaur from the Cold War, and you think I'm just a bean counter and all this and that stuff. I mean, it sets the tone. It's like, yes, this is a new era. This isn't like
Hmm.
Cold War and stuff like that.
Hey, so check this out. This is kind of interesting. And I did not know about this, but it's kind of random. But it says that during shooting, Roger Moore actually came to visit the set during that
Wow.
time, and I guess his son, Christian Moore, was working as a third assistant director,
Wow.
and he quipped that the early success of Pierce Brosnan hadn't worked out, so he was brought back. But then I see that it says that Pierce Brosnan hurt his hand in the bathroom at his house in Malibu
Oof.
before shooting began. So in several shots, his hands were doubled by his 22-year-old son, Christopher Brosnan, who was third assistant trainee on the second unit.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of interesting that like the both of them bring their sons on like a 007 shoot.
That is cool. And you know what's crazy? And the thing is that Pierce Brosnan's first wife, who passed away, I want to say from cancer, she was actually in a Roger Moore movie. I think she was in For Your Eyes Only, if I remember
Oh wow.
correctly. Yeah,
No,
she was in that movie with Roger Moore, and her character ends up getting killed off because of like all the people that she's involved with and everything. So you know, Pierce Brosnan's family and everything is kind of embedded in the Bond series to an even greater degree than some might even think too. So so we're getting into the film and everything, and yeah, I mean, this, you know what's funny is like this movie seems very long because there's a lot of talking head parts, there's a lot of dialogue and everything going on. So there's a lot of fast-paced action, but there's also a lot of like dialogue, which at times can get a little laborious. And I almost feel like I agree with you. It's like, hey, if this was like a TV show, they would have flashed back to give a whole episode to 006 or whatever nowadays, and shown like what he had to go through, and maybe like him remembering about the tidbit about his parents, and him being Cossacks and stuff like that. Basically, like the Nazi sympathizing Russians who got betrayed by British people or whatever, and everything, which is kind of the crux of everything when you break it down. Which I had completely forgotten about that plot point, but I'm like, damn, I think that makes sense why he turned heel. Then, he basically ended up going back and working for the same country that basically betrayed his family and stuff like that. So a little
yeah.
ironic. Plus he's
Uh,
got some of that PTSD and stuff going on for doing Queen
so
and Country work.
check this out. So again, going through the IMDb trivia, so that Sean Bean previously auditioned for the role of James Bond in The Living Daylights in 1987.
Oh, okay. All
But
right. All right.
he did go for it, so maybe they thought about him and said, "Hey, we could use you."
That's the thing too, is like anytime you get a franchise going on, even if the person goes in for one part, like down the road, they're going to be somebody else or they're going to get incorporated, which is kind of the cool thing. And
Hey, I
I'm
mean,
sure that's,
Cavill auditioned.
hey, I'm waiting for that. I'm telling
Yeah,
you, I'm waiting for him to come in as like, this like kind of like uber rich, like evil villain or whatever, especially after he turned heel in Fallout, man, which
yeah,
was that
yeah,
was a great role too. I don't know if it was the mustache that did it for me, but the arm cocking was pretty awesome too when he did that in that one fight scene. I
yeah.
really turned that shit up to 11.
Mhm.
Um, so a little weird though when we kind of cut back from whatever was going on before in the beginning, where we're getting James doing his like little driver evaluation stuff. Little weird musical song choices in this film. I almost feel like I it was like Euro funk disco. Like I was kind of like thrown off. It was like damn damn damn. Like were they opposed to using the James Bond theme or having it be more orchestral? Like
I
you
think they're
know,
trying to keep it more, maybe more modern, but also too, it's
yeah,
like more European because maybe that was like how it was like back in the day. Because like
true.
you think of like that movie Train Spotting, I think that came out in like the 90s too as well. So that could have just been
Mm,
a European thing, but
yeah.
I could be wrong about that too. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, and like you said, it's like the climate of Europe and everything and what type of music is going on. I mean, like Ace of Base and different things like that were happening. So
Yeah.
kind of like that techno dance, like kind of like funk, like whatever. I mean, Jamiroquai was doing their thing too. So, there probably is like some influential thing going on
Yep.
score wise. And that's kind of our first little introduction to Miss Xenia on a top because she's trying to race in that nice red car,
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
James's Aston Martin.
Hmm.
Um, and obviously, again, tidbits, that the audience already knows. We remember her as she would later be known as Jean Grey in the X-Men films, which is pretty interesting
Yeah.
and pop up here and there in pop culture. Um, and just like but when they have like the snappy flirty dialogue, that was really well written and everything,
Hmm.
because they end up encountering each other in like the baccarat table, and obviously they're like gambling against each other,
Yep.
and then that's when you kind of get in to reintroduce yourself, like reacquaint yourself with, oh yeah, Bond's that guy when it comes to gambling. He knows how to do all that stuff. And funny enough, too, I think actually Baccarat was supposed to be the gambling game that they were going to play in Casino Royale, because I think that's what they play in the books.
Yeah.
But I think that just for the sake of modernizing it, they ended up making it poker in that
Mm.
one too, which is funny if I
Mm.
remember correctly.
And then
Um,
isn't that scene too as well when he first gives the name's Bond, James Bond?
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
It
So
came out smoothly too. It was just perfect.
exactly, especially when the guy's rolling up to him, is like, what would you like to drink, sir? Martini, shaken, not stirred. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like it just rolls right there, man. You know your points, you're hitting the marks, getting
Yeah.
top marks at that, delivering it smoothly. Yeah, I don't think that there's ever been like a better casting and come to fruition instance than Pierce Brosnan, to be honest, though, because they were gunning for Pierce for so long, and then when they finally got him, he like over delivered in the
Yeah.
best ways possible, you know?
I agree.
Which is kind of sad that, after dying of the day, like unceremoniously, it almost feels like unceremoniously he got recast,
Yeah.
to a degree.
Did you actually I actually read about that the other day? Basically how he found out he was filming the movie after the sun. I think was it after the sunset
Oh yeah.
or I think after the sunset. Actually, that's a really good movie though, by the way. But yeah, he
Mhm.
was filming like somewhere in like Jamaica or Barbados or whatever, and he was like on
Mhm.
the island,
Yep.
and basically he got a call from his agent saying, "Hey, like they're thinking about moving on, but we don't know yet." Because after dying the other day, he's hoping to
Yeah.
play Bond again, and then he said that like basically he got a call and they said, "Hey, James, oh, not James, sorry, hey, Pierce,
Well.
yeah, we're moving on." And that was basically it.
Yeah.
And he felt like it was kind of shitty, but
Oh
he
yeah.
accepted it, but he felt like they could have done a little bit better for him. But he was actually talking about how like if they, if I think Denis, I think Denis, who's doing the new one? Denis
I think
Villeneuve?
it might be dead. Denis
Yeah.
Villeneuve, the guy who did Dune, right?
Yeah, I
So,
did
yeah.
do. I think he said that if he came and asked him to say, "Hey, we want you to be like Bond again," he said he would do it in a heartbeat. So,
Hey.
he's throwing it out there, but I mean, I don't know if they're gonna go younger. I mean, I think
Yeah.
I would have seen older Bond, but like if it was more like a show in that sense rather than
Yeah.
I just don't. It'd be kind of like Harrison Ford again, being Indy, where we
Yeah.
all knew that like it just didn't work.
Yeah. I
If they just
mean,
kind of used them in a different way, that'd be kind of cool. But I just, they're probably gonna go young. So
yeah, and personally, I think they should go back to like the random misadventures format.
yeah,
I know that with this one, with Daniel Craig's Bonds, they tried to have that linear line through and the definitive ending and beginning for him. As great as that was, depending on who you ask. I mean, I thought it was decent, but the delays and everything, I think, really kind of like lost me for a little bit. But
yeah,
I think honestly, for that one, they should go back to like, okay, here are all these exploits and one-off adventures. You can recast whoever, but it's all the same guy essentially. You know.
mhm,
So that's how I think that they should look at that personally.
yeah,
But I mean, that's just me. Continuing on with the all these cameos and stuff like that. Alan Cumming as Boris. That was a inspire. That was
yeah. I'm
a very big
invincible.
surprise.
That
I am invincible,
was,
Slughead. Every time he said Slughead, I thought he was not saying it. I thought he was saying shithead. But no, I'm
uh,
looking back and his lip is actually saying Slughead. I'm like,
yeah,
okay, all right. He wasn't just censoring himself there. Okay,
yeah.
got it. Um,
Great
and
casting.
I don't know the actress's name, but Natalia, she was a pretty good actress too.
Yeah, the
Um,
only movie I remember her from was this, and she was in that movie Vertical Limit. Other than that,
really?
yeah. Have you seen Vertical
No
Limit?
shit. Dude, I have not seen Vertical Limit, but the only thing I remember is the previews. That was with Chris O'Donnell in there too, right?
Yep, Chris O'Donnell. Yep.
Oh damn.
Yeah, I remember seeing that movie. My cousin got it like one day from like Hollywood Video or Blockbuster. We
Yeah.
watched it. Yeah, and I was like, oh yeah, this movie's pretty. It's okay,
Oh
but
shit, it's Robin.
yeah. Dude, Chris O'Donnell like definitely like aged really bad.
And dude,
He's old. He's old, man.
the last time I saw him was Batman and Robin, and I didn't see him until I watched the
Oh,
Max Payne movie, which was a terrible idea.
oh man, awful.
And then he was in Two and a Half Men.
Mm.
And that cameo was he played basically someone that used to date Charlie and then got a sex change.
Yeah.
and then he ends up dating his mom, and I'm like, wow, that's ridiculous. And then he did NCIS Los Angeles with LL Cool J, and now I guess he's on the 911.
911. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the 911s.
Or I
So,
can't remember what show.
and it's
Something
not
like
the
that.
main one. It's one of
Yeah.
the spin-offs,
Five.
maybe
No. Yeah.
Lone Star or whatever. But yeah, hey, I mean, hey, you're getting some decent people. You're getting Angela Bassett. You're getting freaking Rob Lowe. You're getting
Yeah.
some.
A lot
So
of big
it
a lot
could
of
be
big hitters
worse.
in TV shows. All right.
Exactly.
So I looked up more in our IMDb. She was actually also in Reign of Fire, which I was like, oh,
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's another one too. I haven't seen that in a long time. That was another big one too.
free somewhere on YouTube. I saw it the other day. Like I'm always
Mm,
watching stuff on YouTube because like, oh, free movies. Like, I'll jump in. And I was watching that
right.
movie. I was watching that movie Priest, and I was like, oh,
Oh God, Priest.
I fell asleep through that. But I was like, oh shit, I forgot that Carl Urban was in the movie.
Yep.
I forgot about that. I haven't seen it in a long time. I know it wasn't good, but I was like, yeah, whatever. I'll just throw it on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of funny though too, because some of those movies end up getting cult followings because you go back and you rewatch it, and then I don't know what it is about certain like times as the passage of time goes on. Some movies you get a little bit more nostalgia for just because of the casting or whatever it is. Sometimes, like
Yeah,
whatchamacallit, there's this old flick called Rising Sun. It's got Toshiro Mifune, it's got Charles Bronson, and it's got this one other guy in there. But they were all three major actors back in like the '60s and '70s, and
yeah.
it's like, oh well, this is one of those movies that you never heard about, and then all of a sudden it's like, holy shit, Toshiro Mifune was actually in an American movie with this guy, and he's actually speaking English and shit. So it's one of those novelty things because, God, man, I can't tell you how many times I've saw a movie being released on like Arrow Video or whatever, and I'm like, I've never heard of this freaking movie. But
Yeah.
like, it's like an old movie. They got lost to time. They refreshed it. They restored it, and it's got all these people that like got in there. I mean, I want to say that like Robert Downey Jr. has probably done a bunch of different movies between the '80s and stuff that like were like lost to time. Like
Hmm.
I don't know what one was called Soap. One was another one was like a random like he did a lot of rom comedies too. Like oh my god,
Rom-coms. I mean, he does like in
yeah.
high school, he was like a quarterback, I think, or he played football.
Yeah, and then there was one where he was just like there was like angels visiting him and like helping him like win somebody over. Alfred Woodard was actually one of the ones, and I'm like, wait a minute, the first time that they acted together was in this movie and not in like a Civil War,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
like crazy shit like that. But but yeah, so I mean, in this instance right here, GoldenEye had the actors, but also had the notoriety and the luxury of being in an awesome franchise and stuff too. Um, so this one story was pretty interesting. Basically, what happens is that Bond has to stop, 006 and his, minions and stuff from getting this like major EMP device known as GoldenEye, which has like devastating effect because when we see it get like used basically on the site that it was created and used at, I mean that thing got leveled to smithereens, and all of like the tech and everything got like messed up and just exploded. Plus, all the fighter jets that were coming to investigate got messed up, and that's kind of what tied into the beginning part where Bond tried to stop them from stealing that expensive Tiger and Tiger helicopter. And when they say Tiger helicopter, my mind immediately goes to Hugo Strange and Arkham City, getting gunned down from Tiger helicopters and stuff. But because it's EMP resistant and whatnot, so that played a big part in them going there and then being able to leave when they ended up detonating the machinery and stuff like that. And then obviously you have the debrief. You were introduced to M, which I mean, M is pretty badass. She takes no shit from Bond. Like she sets it up really quick. You
Yeah,
know.
I actually like that M was his M was his boss. I mean, obviously she made it towards, into Craig's movies,
Mhm.
Skyfall is obviously the end, but I think her being included and just being the person that Bond reports to, even though like Bond's like a ladies' man and everything like that, like he still reports to a woman
Mhm.
that's, in charge of him and try to keep him in check.
Yep.
I think it worked well. And obviously, Madam Dench is just like awesome.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and that was kind of the cool thing. It's like again, starting off with this movie, and then Martin Campbell coming back and doing Casino Royale, and then making her the M in that universe, and then it tails off and twists again to Ray Fiennes, who auditioned for Bond, and now he's M. Again,
Yeah.
it's like it's cyclical. It's almost like the whole tenet thing. I don't know, is it an anagram? I forget what it's called, where basically the start and the end of something looks the
Yeah,
same if you flip it. But
falling
it's kind of like a
circle.
full circle moment and stuff like that.
Mm.
Um, a lot of cool moments in this. I mean, again, beyond the fact that he's a suave James Bond and he's got the dialogue and the look and everything. I mean, the gadgetry when he met up with I'm not Q. That
Yeah,
was a great
yeah,
scene, and the gadgets of like the pen grenade and everything that comes back later, which creates for a very intense moment. The dude
yeah.
keeps on spinning and clicking, and he's like,
That was a great scene too. I actually went to learn how Boris did all that, like
"Yep,
as a kid, and I just try like I used to do it in class all the time, just like flipping pens around. So
yep,
I seen how the way he did it, just like
yep."
that was awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And then like just for him to like smack it out of his hand at the last second and everything, you know.
Mm.
But whatchamacallit. And then I would always go back to well, not always, but like this one scene surprised me is like the scene where he actually meets up with Hagrid. Remember Robbie Coltrane was in this
Oh
movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
He's the
yeah,
guy
yeah.
that he ended up shooting in the leg
Right, right, right,
and
right.
everything. And
Yeah.
then also Minnie Driver's in there for 2 seconds as his mistress, like
Mm.
strangling the cat, singing badly.
Yeah.
And he's like,
I
"That is
think
my mistress."
yeah, I haven't seen that. Yeah, I remember seeing Haggard. I don't remember
Hmm.
Mini Driver though, but yeah, that
Yeah.
mine. I gotta go back
Ex-
and watch it though, so
yeah, no, because he's in this one. He's like basically he's a guy that was Bond's like adversary, and then he let him live, by
right.
shooting him in the leg. But then he pops up in The World Is Not Enough. I can't remember. I don't know if he pops up in the next one, Tomorrow Never Dies, but I know he comes in The World Is Not Enough for sure.
Yeah, he was always like Bond's like kind of go-to guy to go talk to and everything like that. So yeah,
Hmm.
he did pop up I do remember that. I do remember that. But I don't think it was in Tomorrow Never Dies. Or no,
Yep.
sorry. Or Die Another Day. Was it Die Another Day?
He definitely wasn't in Die Another Day because The World Is Not Enough. He actually gets killed because he
Right.
actually helps Bond that one last time and everything.
Yeah, World of Not that
Um.
one kind of just
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that one wasn't that good.
I liked it. I thought it was cool. What's wrong
I
with
actually
The
like the
World's Not
song.
Enough?
I think if anything, the song was probably perfect for the movie though.
It
Other than
was
that, I could care less about the what's her face.
Electra King.
Yeah.
No, you didn't like that whole thing where basically Bond's lady that he ended up getting nice with decided to turn heel on him or switch up, or the whole
But
thing
she
was
was
like
good.
a big
She was
thing.
good. It was like the environmental chick or whatever. I forgot her name.
Oh yeah, Denise
Yeah,
Richards.
Denise
She
Richards.
was
I could care less.
Lee Christmas, Dr. Lee
Yeah,
Christmas, and I'm
I could
like,
care less for her. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
I
that's
could
just
care less about her.
we can only suspend our disbelief so much when you're talking about this lady having a PhD and doing environmental shit. Then that's when we draw the line.
Trying to go back. I'm trying to remember. Trying to,
It was the guy that
just
was
remember a
in.
boat. I just remember a boat.
Yeah, so the boat was Tomorrow Never Dies with the newscaster guy, and Terry Hatcher was his wife.
Yeah, that was actually a really good movie. I actually like Tomorrow Never Dies, if anything. Like obviously GoldenEye and Tomorrow Never Dies were like a good like one,
Yeah.
two. Then you just
Yep.
get that rolls down up. It's like, oh god. It gets
I
worse. Yeah.
listen. I like Tomorrow Never. I mean, I like The World Is Not Enough. I don't know why. I just feel like the song, like you said, but then also like some of the instances we see him in, they ended up phasing out the old Q to get the new Q in that one too.
Yeah.
In a respectful way, because Desmond Llewellyn, the one who played the original Q, was actually
Yeah.
getting very old, and I think he passed away shortly after that.
Yeah.
I liked the way that they had a lot of action scenes in that one too. It was really, really cool stuff. But I feel like Die Another Day was the one that kind of got the bad rap, and
Yeah.
that
That's
one
probably the
that one
worst.
was a little bit more of a steep decline. I mean, when you got Madonna in there, I'm
Yeah.
like,
And yeah. You can see Pierce is just getting a little bit too old, and just the story was kind of stupid. Like,
yeah.
you know.
I think that's probably why they wanted to move on after that because they waited too long for Roger Moore. I mean, by the
Mhm.
time Roger Moore was in A View to a Kill, it's like he was dating his granddaughter or something.
Yeah,
Like I
exactly.
think he even said that he's like, oh, I had to rethink what's going on here because I mean, when the leading lady is less than half your age, you
Well, my thing
gotta.
is that if you go back and like I said, I recommend this movie, but if you go see the movie, I think it's called After the Sunset.
Hmm.
And it's actually it's actually really good. Like Pierce Brosnan
I
plays
wanna I wanna say I saw that because that's him, Salma Hayek, Woody Harrelson,
yep,
Don Cheadle, right?
yep, yeah. And basically like he plays like a jewel thief,
Yeah.
but there's still Bond in there. And
Oh
like
yeah.
he still has it, even though he's like a little bit older, but like I'm trying to think. I was like, because in like Die Another Day, he felt like he was older than he was, and I think that movie came out around the same time. I think Die Another Day
Mhm.
came out like in 2001, two or 2002,
I
I
can't
think.
remember. I can't
But
remember the
like
exact
After
date.
the
Yeah.
Sunset came out around the same time. I want to say that movie came out in 2003 or 2004, but like
Yeah. Now you get
um
me curious. Let me see when did Die
yeah,
Another
Die
Day
Another
come
Day
out.
came out in 2002,
Yep.
and then I want to say it's called After the Sunset. Yeah, After the
Hmm.
Sunset came out in like 2004, but
Hmm.
like he still had Bond in him, so I'm like he still could have been Bond. I feel
Well,
like
that's because he was such a great actor for the pick. Like he was naturally Bond. So anything you see in him after that, any movie you see with him in after that is
I
going to
think
be
it was
oh,
just
it's
more. I think it was just more of the script and just a story. They just didn't have. They didn't know what to do. I think anymore with them. I think that's probably what it was. It could have just. It could. It wasn't really Pierce Brosnan's fault. I think it's just more of the fact of like the script wasn't that great and the movie, the idea wasn't that great.
yeah. I think Die Another Day definitely they were tapped out on ideas. I mean, who the hell knows? Maybe it was a writer's strike or something. I mean, God, how many of those are synonymous with terrible movie releases or
Yeah.
whenever they go like off the deep end with some stupid stuff on usually rock solid franchises. So I mean, could have been that. Could have been some type of union strike somewhat somewhere along the lines. I think there might have been too. Like anytime you look at a really great entry or a really great franchise and they go off the rails,
Mm.
it's usually because of some shit like that. So, but I tell you what, one scene that I was very surprised upon rewatch was the part where he actually reveals like himself to be Janice or whatever it
Yep.
is Trevelyan. And when they're talking, I'm just like the way the music is and everything. Like, go back and watch that scene, dude. It feels like I'm watching an anime scene, and they should have put some really quick flashbacks in there of him like, like going
Yeah.
through all the hardships, remembering different things, because that totally fit the bill for like this anime scene where you're supposed to be seeing some quick flashes as the villain is monologuing and shit.
Mm.
Very, very well done.
Yeah.
And it's like he's like, "Oh, James, put it away. It's insulting to think I haven't thought of everything that you would have done." And he's like, "Yes," and he's just like kind of get that moment right there, you
Mm.
know. And then
Yep.
when they knock him out, and then all of a sudden it's like hard cut to like Mister, wake up, and it's like that was pretty accurate. I mean, if you get knocked out and then you're having to like think on your feet, and then you pull the John McClane from Die Hard 2, having to eject the freaking seat from the
Yeah.
helicopter. I'm like,
Yep.
I've seen this before. What? Oh yeah, Die Hard 2.
If it works, it works.
Hey, it does, man, it does. So, but and then dude, when they end up getting geez, I'm talking so much I'm crying about this movie. No, I'm kidding. um when they got arrested by the Russian people though, the defense advisor, you remember him from some movies? Kiss of the Dragon is a movie
Yeah.
that guy is in that I fucking love. That movie was a great Jet Li movie, and
Mm.
that was a great bad guy role for him. But like in this one, he's just like a small thankless role as like the defense ministry for Russia and stuff, and they're doing the little interrogation scene again, snappy dialogue, and then she comes in and is like, stop it, you acted like boys with toys. But then they're like talking about stuff,
Yeah.
and Bond is like, the art of interrogation has been lost. And by the end of the conversation, he's like, Mr. Bond, you were saying about the art of interrogation. And then all of a sudden, Armoff comes in, takes Bond's gun, kills both of the guys, frames him up. And then we get this, like, just diabolically awesome tank scene. Like, I didn't know a
Oh,
tank could move like that.
so, yeah. So that actually happens. I mean, you said you haven't played GoldenEye, right? So
Yeah, I haven't played it. Yeah.
that's actually a mission in the game where you end
Yep.
up getting out of jail and then you have Natasha with you and then you basically use a tank and kind of like destroy other tanks. But
Oh,
like
yeah. I mean, I
that
played
was
Nightfire, I played all those other ones, so they definitely played off of that stuff too.
yeah.
But yeah, no,
And him having the suit on too was kind of like cool, like being in the suit, all like you know top notch, but then you're in
yep.
tank blowing things up. Like that was awesome.
Yep. I mean, James did not give a single fuck that he was demolishing like years of buildings and statues and all this stuff. I mean, when they set it up nice and big with a nice big set of Perrier water can like truck, you know that thing's getting demolished. But
Oh
then he
yeah.
goes into like that alley that they slipped into and he's just demolishing like literally this much extra of the buildings that are like, and I'm just like, whew, okay, James. All right, right. We're yeah, you're definitely gonna make am very upset with her bean counting at that point, because how many millions are you going to have to reimburse back to the the countries of the things you've destroyed and stuff? I mean, it's one thing if it's all terrorist activity, but I mean,
Yeah.
shit, man, this is infrastructure that is like ancient, and you're just destroying everything, including a memorial statue that freaking takes out cop cars and all this other shit. Like it's
Mm.
hilarious. It's crazy and hilarious. We're all worried about the collateral damage that Superman and company make in those Snack Steiner movies, but we're not worried about the collateral damage in James Bond movies.
I
The
know.
double standard is brimming. No, I'm kidding. No, but it's crazy to watch. It is crazy to watch. And then obviously he's tracking down um, Trevelyan on the train and everything. And I thought that that was a cool little interesting scene. But just to see like how like dastardly like the bad guy is, like he's just like all kissing up on Natalia and stuff, and she like pushes him off and just like you know
Yeah.
like damn, like that guy
I was
really
kind of
really was like
disappointed. That's actually one thing that like I know we kind of said like each Bond movie is kind of like its own, but like obviously the Daniel Craig movies all had like
mm-hmm,
a string of things. I actually like Natalia, and I wish they could have used her. I don't
mm,
obviously there's different women who become a Bond girl, but I like the fact that like
sure,
they did that in the Craig movies where they had like a whole weave of things. Obviously with
mm-hmm,
Vesper,
yep,
and eventually that girl.
like definitive relationships,
Right.
definitive relationships.
I actually
Natalia
like
could have
that.
been one of them, like a
And I
Vicky
thought
Vale to
Natalia,
Batman.
right. And I thought I thought Natalia was actually a really good
Mm-hmm.
like a Bond girl that like could have been in more movies. And they
Sure,
could have used her more. I did like was it was it Michelle Wu? Was Michelle Wu in Tomorrow Never Dies?
yes, yep,
Which
mm-hmm.
I thought she was like a really good addition. I didn't really see her as like a Bond girl. I felt like she was like more
Oh yeah,
like a
she was like
partner.
right. Yeah, she was right on. She was basically Bond, but for Chinese intelligence,
Right.
right?
Yeah, exactly. So like, I mean, that was fine, but like I think if anything, I would have liked for him to have Natalia throughout the films. 'Cause I thought she was a
Yep.
really yeah, I mean, I don't know, I don't know her whole entire catalog of movies, but like
Yeah.
she fit the bill of,
Yeah.
what needed to be in this movie. And I think, they could have used her more in the other ones. But I mean, I just know
Sure.
how obviously James Bond movies, you always have a Bond girl, always have different
Yeah.
female, in every other film. So I mean, I get
Hmm.
it, but I would have liked to
Well,
see that thread.
no, no, you could bring up a good point, but the thing is, like, as on the whole, a lot of the James Bond movies, like, okay, a different adventure, different ladies, but there were some of those earlier on James Bond movies where, like, Miss Trench, you remember her, the black-haired lady that he was like gambling in with Doctor No? She pops up in like From Russia with Love, and they're like off on a trip doing whatever, as he's about to get attacked, and then he has to like go off and do whatever. So there's been consistent women in some of the Bond entries that come back. And then, of course, it was for one movie, but I mean, the man ends up getting married to, uh, a woman, and then she gets killed in that same movie. But then after that, it's almost like, oh, is he ever going to love again? Is he ever going to have another one? I think Natalia makes a good point where she could have. Also, though, I think they were really trying to put Bond in a box with like some romance and stuff, like typical romance, because she was like they didn't end up getting together or sleeping together until like well after he had saved her a couple times, and they actually built some rapport and everything. So it was like they were trying to like instill that into Bond again, modernizing him and doing all these things, making him more of like a more of a gentleman, even though he still is like a ladies' man,
Yeah.
like that he actually does care. And he actually did care about Natalia to a degree. But then next movie, it's like, okay, well, where the hell is she at? Oh, no, okay, all right, got it. The only woman
Yeah.
in Bond's life is Moneypenny, which, funny enough, for the first like all the way up until Roger Moore, Moneypenny was Canadian, and then
Mhm.
like in the Timothy Dalton ones and on, she just became British and stuff like that, which I
Yeah.
I, I just realized. So I thought that that was pretty funny. Um, yeah, I think that once they get to like Cuba and do the whole infiltrating of that and stuff like that. That was pretty cool. One moment I always remember is when he's like arming the detonators, and then he goes like this really quick as a gun, like a bullet literally shoots the pillar next to him, and I'm like he's got that sixth sense in him. He's like, okay, they fired how many shots? Okay, this one's gonna hit me. Boom. Okay, let me move out of the way really quick while I'm doing this. It's like
Yeah.
grace under pressure. Again, that's a big trait right there for Bond.
And that's one of the things too that like again goes back to the games, but like and I guess you could say to the movies too as well that like every different location Bond is in, he has like a different outfit, and I thought like the Cuba
Yeah.
outfit was fitting. And it's like, oh, Bond doesn't just like wear like suits all the time. He can be
Yeah.
like he can wear tactical gear or camouflage gear or suits when needed. And I thought that the
Yeah.
Cuba was like kind of like the most memorable ones because like obviously that whole entire like um location where they film
Yeah.
everything and obviously him killing off I just know it's Famke Jensen. I
So,
can't remember her name, but
oh
uh
yeah, yep, yep,
but
getting her
her
tied
getting
up.
like yeah, her basically getting like strapped up by the helicopter, that killing her, and then off of like asphyxiation, I guess, and then the whole like the whole satellite fight was actually like
Hmm.
cool too as well. I mean, we'll get to that point when we get to that point, but I just remember
Yeah.
that. So I just remember just like, oh man, that's cool. That's just like you don't really see that with Bond, where like Bond's like, he's not just wearing a suit all the time.
Yeah,
Like,
he's wearing tactical. Like either he's in a cat suit or a wetsuit, or he's in his like tuxedo or whatever it is, you know.
right,
And this,
right.
he's actually wearing like fatigues and like some sort of
He's yeah,
camo and like some cargo pants and some boots and shit. So
right.
yeah, oh yeah, this guy was literally a commander. Like you could tell he had some like military like background experience and stuff.
Yeah.
And even in the other ones too, like when he's like rolling up and Tomorrow Never Dies and he lights up the guy's cigarette, he's like punches him. He's like disgusting habit, or whatever it is,
Hmm.
you know. So
Yep.
yeah, this they were really bringing this Bond up in as far as being able to be tactical as far. So definitely. Um, they didn't have a Felix later, obviously, in the last movies. He got bit by a shark and basically kind of went away and stuff. So they had Joe Don Baker as like his little confidant CIA guy or whatever. That weird guy that he ended up basically holding at gunpoint because he wouldn't do the little like the passcode sentence or whatever. And he's like, "Show me the rose, show me the rose." And it's like the guy has to pull up his pants and show him like a freaking rose with his like ex-wife's name and shit on it. I don't know if
Yep.
you remember that. But then
Yeah.
that guy was also a bad guy in The Living Daylights. So again,
Oh, okay.
recycling actors, bringing people back and everything.
Yeah.
So pretty cool, interesting. Um, yeah, I mean, this I don't know. There's not one specific thing in this movie that we can really focus on, but I just think that as a whole, it's an awesome movie, and it's just again crazy to think, okay, 30 years later, we've got this, and like how it kind of painted the next iterations of Bond. I mean, once Pierce was in, it was done. Like they were really going all in on like the tongue in cheek nature. They made a lot of more humor, and again, it was moving away from the Cold War. So what's the next big threat? What's the next big thing? The next movie was okay, the media and basically starting a war and then using that and exploiting it and getting ratings out of it. And then the movie after that was, basically this chick and this terrorist basically trying to, I forget what exactly the plot was. See, that's the thing too. A lot of these plots run together, right? I
Yeah.
don't even know what the hell that they were doing. I gotta, I gotta look at that up. But then Die of the Day was all about like using the diamonds and attacking your enemies, and like Bond was in North Korea and then he basically like killed the guy, but then the guy ended up coming around and getting plastic surgery to look British and all this other shit. And I'm just like,
Yeah. That's kind of wild. Yeah.
that's a little wild, man. It's like
Yeah.
almost like we
I
were
actually
doing
kind of
a
like
Tropic
the
Thunder
I
thing
actually kind of
before.
like the look of him getting like his face like blowing off and then him having like the diamonds stuck in
Oh,
his
that guy,
face.
yeah, that was cool because
That was
that
actually
was
pretty
that.
cool.
Yeah, that was a cool, interesting thing. I think that henchman, that guy was really cool, and that guy was in a couple movies like right then and there too. He was in like Fast and Furious at
Yep.
the time,
Yep.
and then eventually he ended up being in the Olympus Has Fallen movie too.
Yep. Yeah.
It's
He
one of the
was.
terrorists. That guy was a pretty good actor.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as I mean, they just went out and did random shit with these ones for sure. Not to say like the Roger Moore ones weren't random. I mean, when you got a guy that's 8 feet tall with fucking metal teeth and stuff, that's you know.
Yeah.
I think we pretty much hit everything that we can hit on this movie. That was pretty cool. I mean, do you have any other things that stand out in your mind, or?
I'm trying to think. Um, Obviously it's a cult classic. Um, I just like the relationship with between Alec and James. Like I said, I just wish there was a little bit more to that.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously them having like, well, depending on Alec's case, he, didn't really love England, but just like how they
Mm-hmm.
had that bond, that brotherly bond, I think that I wish it just showed a little bit more of that. I think that would have obviously, again, it came out in the '90s, the early '90s, and these movie tropes where you just have a guy just you're cool with, you're friends with, it's your brother, and ends up being the villain. Turns, I wish obviously nowadays we have a little bit more like better writers, better story, more in-depth things.
Yeah.
But for that time, I think it worked for all of us, I guess in that sense. But like I think if it was made today, we would want more, a little bit more. And I think that's the only thing that's kind of missing with it. And it came out in the '90s, but it still holds up to this day. Um, Again, I thought the cast was awesome. I think the Bond girls were awesome.
Hmm.
Obviously, but our my as far as I know, this is my first introduction to Femke Jensen and
Yeah.
sorry, Femke Jensen, and then her being, becoming Jean Grey, Boris becoming Harry.
Nightcrawler,
I think
ironically enough.
obviously that's pretty cool. Like you have like a lot of big stars, and even too, I forgot about Hagrid being in the movie too. I forgot about
Yep.
that. Like I
Robbie
totally forgot
Coltrane. Yep.
about that.
Rest in peace.
And then you have obviously Sean Bean, and then you have Pierce Brosnan. Like it's a lot of big actors at that time, early in their stage of their careers, and all becoming big actors at some point
Hmm.
with depending on what timeline you look at. But um for me, I just think it's a great rewatch. I think it's a great '90s movie. Obviously, this is like, if anything, I think if obviously they're gonna do another Bond at some point, and I think I would want the next Bond to be more like Pierce Brosnan
Mm-hmm.
rather than like more like Daniel Craig's Bond. I
Yeah.
think you kind of want to go back to the Sean Connery Bond in a sense. I'm not saying that Daniel Craig didn't have that. I just felt like he was more just like more like he was more a little bit more gritty, a little bit more like action packed rather than like
I think so. Here's my big thing with it is
yeah,
that
go
I
ahead.
think that he was absolutely we got some cooler action, a lot more gritty action and stuff like that. But with that, we also get that very vulnerable Bond thing. Like it every once in a while, you can't just be doing that every single movie because all right, Casino Royale, vulnerable. He's actually fallen for this woman, and then he gets backstabbed. Second one, more action, terrible writing, writer strikes. Okay, yeah. All right, Skyfall, bringing it back. All right, cool. We got some action. We got some more cool stuff. Sam Mendes is doing some really cool stuff. Oh, we're getting a little bit more of Bond's backstory. Tiny bit of vulnerability.
Mm.
Mom gets killed. He's there while she dies. We get a new M. Cool. Let's do it, man. Next one, Spectre. All right, Bond, action, cool, great. Batista wasted. He didn't. I'm upset that they dubbed over Batista. Like you should have just like had him not say shit at all, or like let him just use his voice. Like he doesn't
Yeah.
need to be like he doesn't need to be like oh shit, like that's literally the only thing that they had in there for
Mm.
him. Yeah, but then with Spectre again, we're getting too vulnerable, guys. We're getting too vulnerable. James is giving it up, and he's like retiring or whatever it is. And then when No Time to Die comes along, oh my god, you betrayed me. Oh, I love you still. Oh, is that my daughter? Oh, like no. I don't need none of that shit. I don't want none of that shit. I want to like Bond, balls to the wall, chase sequences, action. You know, I'm not saying you got to make him like totally like a heartless man, but like James Bond is a player, man. James Bond's a player. Come
Yeah,
on.
I think if I would I don't know who the actor is gonna be, but like
Yeah.
again, Pierce Brosnan, growing up with him, obviously he's been in all the Bond movies, but he was in like, Mrs. Doubtfire, he was
Yeah.
in what's it called? Dante's Peak in the
Mm.
'90s. Like,
Oh yeah.
I grew up with this guy, and I even too like right now he's in that show Mobland where he's still got it. Even though he's in the '70s, he's still got it.
Oh
But
yeah.
I think if they go and pick a new Bond, I mean, either you try to do something new with him, or I think try to bring him back to like the Sean Connerys, the Sean,
Mm.
even to the Timothy Daltons,
Yeah.
the Pierce Brosnans. Like, I think you need that you need like that core of who like James Bond is, and I think obviously again, Daniel Craig's movies were great. Not all of them, but some of them, they were pretty good, especially Casino Royale. Casino Royale is probably one of my favorite Bonds of Daniel Craig's,
Mm.
but it still wasn't the Pierce Brosnan that I was used to, and
Mm.
I feel like if they're gonna do a new Bond, you gotta do Bond,
Yeah,
justice in that
bring him
sense.
back. Bring him back to
Bring
his
him back a
roots,
little
man.
bit,
Yeah,
and that's that's
don't
kind
make
of
him
like
too
my
emotional.
yeah, that's kind of like my conclusion of things as far as I know when it comes to what I would want to talk about.
Yeah.
I don't know who could be Bond though. Like I know they talked about Aaron Taylor Johnson, I think.
Yeah, supposedly he
Maybe.
received a formal invitation for this. But look at this. The MGM got bought by Amazon. If I was Amazon, I would have fast tracked a show or something. Instead, they did like this game show bullshit for
Right.
James Bond, where Brian Cox even says like, "I thought it was a movie. I didn't even realize I was going to be the host for this. I just said yes to it, and I didn't realize." I'm like, okay, well maybe you might want to check your shit before you do that. That
I
way
mean,
we can have some type of. But then
yeah.
they got the video game coming out too, which I'm looking forward to.
Oh yeah, 007 First Light. Yeah, it looks like it's like a kind of like a mix of like, well, I want to say mix. I think it's more like it's like Uncharted in a sense. It's kind of like
Yeah.
Uncharted, but
Yep.
I think there's a little bit more like, well, I could say this. Yeah, it is kind of like a mix. I could say it's like a mix of Uncharted and a
Hmm.
mix of Hitman, a mix of like Splinter Cell a little bit. Like there's
Yeah.
actions, there's I wouldn't say Metal Gear, but there's like stealth in it too as well. But there's like more like
Mhm.
dialogue where like you gotta kind of use your James Bond, you know,
Yep.
charisma to get more information out of people, to get more, to basically swoon, women or whatever, and
Yep.
basically kind of get the information you need to complete your objective rather than just going it, guns blazing or balls to the wall where like you're just shooting up the whole entire
Yeah.
joint. You can't do that in that game. So I think
Yeah.
that's going to be really interesting to see. Obviously, I will be buying it because
Yep.
of 007.
Same.
Um, but like I don't know, I just think that if they do something different or they do something new, and because MGM has the rights now to do James Bond, I would want to see either to like again like maybe I don't know, maybe they might not do. Maybe he might be James Bond, or maybe or basically like let him lead up into becoming James Bond or to getting the license to kill because even too like in the Casino Royale movie, you see like maybe that short sequence of him killing the second person he needed to get to basically be a double O agent.
Yep.
Maybe we see like a little bit like a long stretch of that of him becoming Bond and him being in the military to eventually,
Mm.
getting out of that and then basically being recruited by MI6 or something like that. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I just
Mhm.
think I hope they find somebody. If it is Aaron Taylor Johnson or if it is somebody different, that they could find somebody that has that charisma.
Mhm.
And if again, if you've seen, I think if you've seen what's the movie called? Was it the Man from Uncle? You seen Man from
Yep.
Uncle? Like, I don't know if he's too old now, but I think again, a big Cavill fan guy, but like Cavill, if you go
Mhm.
back and watch that movie, like he has that charisma. He has that like
Mhm.
leading man. He could basically be James Bond.
Oh yeah, I think
He
hands
basically
down.
James, hands down, he could be James. He
Yeah.
could be James Bond, or I mean, if anything, he has the capacity in his acting to be James Bond, and he fits
Hands
the
down.
bill. He looks
Hands
like that.
down. Hands
Mhm.
down. I always felt that way. I mean, whether you're talking about like Superman or James Bond or some other characters, he's got the chops, he's got the pedigree. It's just like the material that's going to be there and stuff too. I mean, again, age is is definitely going to be a factor. But if you're offering it to Aaron Taylor Johnson, I don't think Aaron Taylor Johnson is really that young though, is he? I mean, I
I
could
think
be
he's like
wrong here,
35.
but
I want to say he's like 34, 35, or he could be like 36. I just know he's like around. I think he's like around our age. I think.
yeah, you're right. He's 35. So I mean, maybe, yeah, maybe they could. Yeah, I don't know. And he's not a bad actor too. He's not my first pick whenever I'm thinking, oh, James Bond,
I mean,
But
he's a really good actor, and he has been in like a lot of really good movies. Like, I think he just did was it movie the 28 Weeks Later. He was in the Godzilla movie.
yeah, 28 years
Um,
28 years later he
even
was
that.
decent in. He's in there for a small bit though. What is it? And then the guy I liked him in the Godzilla movie. I actually was hoping that he would come back, and I am upset that they killed off uh Bryan Cranston in that movie too, because I
Oh,
thought
yeah.
Cranston was a great person. He would have been a great doctor to have. But then again, they also had Ken Watanabe as Doctor Serizawa. So I'm like, oh, you can't have two doctors. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
whatever. But
Ken Watanabe too, though, in that movie. Well, not
mm.
the first one, but I think the was it the second one? Was it like
Oh, he was in the first and the second, but he died. Is that because yeah, he died. He ended up sacrificing himself so that way they could heal Godzilla. So he set off
yeah.
a nuke. Yeah. So those were another well done like American version of Godzilla. Those that adaptation was pretty cool for those ones. And then you had the Godzilla versus Kong, and then you had the second Godzilla versus Kong.
That second one wasn't that good though, in
I
my
thought it
opinion.
was good, but I do think that they rushed a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering what they're going to do with this next one because I heard that they're going to be doing Space Godzilla now. So I'm like,
Have you seen Monarch?
yes, I thought that
Monarch
that
is
was a
really good.
pretty good show. I feel like there were points where it got really slow, but it was also cool to see, you know, Kurt Russell and his son play in the same character. That was pretty
That was
interesting.
cool. Yeah, that was cool.
Um, yeah, and I think isn't season two coming out? Are they doing a season two?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it came out like a while ago, so
Oh,
I'm not too
yeah,
sure. I mean, I
it
know
came out a while ago.
It's an Apple TV show, so who
Yeah,
knows? But I thought it was actually a really good TV show, but I haven't heard anything, so who knows?
yeah. Who
But
knows?
yeah, that's pretty much it. I just hope they find a good bond. I hope they find like a,
Mm-hmm.
again, to reel it back to be like Sean Connery, Timothy
Mm-hmm.
Dalton, Pierce Brosnan. I kind of want that bond back.
Yeah.
We still have a little bit more, of maybe a mix of Daniel Craig too or Roger Moore. Just
Mm-hmm.
we'll see what happens. If
Yeah.
once you find out, you'll be hearing from us guys. So
Yeah,
we'll talk about it.
absolutely,
Yep.
absolutely. When the news breaks, hopefully we'll be starting to get on that. So, but overall, yeah, GoldenEye still holds up. It's still got some really cool things in there. Firsts for James Bond, and was yeah, it was basically a shot in the arm for the series when it was dead. Kind of again, much like Casino Royale would be. Martin Campbell and company did a great job. Pierce Brosnan's first outing as Bond was perfection, and varying degrees after that in terms of the films and the performances and what he was asked to do for sure. But I think that overall, yeah, this was a great Bond movie, and it's really again mind blowing to say, hey, 30 years later, it's still kicking and still popular and all this other stuff. So, I mean, from the cast to the villains to the story to the humor that was in there,
Yep.
um, I think it all works out well. And yeah, if I think Amazon and MGM, they need to really go back and take a quick look at everything and say, okay, what made these things special, and really kind of focus on that again. And
I agree.
I am in total agreement on that. But overall, guys, our thoughts on this. We love this movie, and we grew up with this movie. So like 4 out of 5 stars for me. What would you rate this?
I would probably say, yeah, I'd probably say 4 out of 5 stars is a good score for it.
Mm,
Especially for it being like the first introduction to Pierce Brosnan. I mean, obviously it's his best 007 movie out of his
mm,
catalog. So I
yeah.
mean, definitely a good movie.
Yeah, absolutely. If you haven't seen it, which God, what are you doing with your life? Go see it now and then get back to us and let us know what you thought about it. But
Yep.
anyway, guys, this has been another Movie Bros discussion collab. So until next time, as always, I'm Jay. Here's Ricardo, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
See you guys.